My God.
It's another sad day in America.
Painful to be introduced to George Floyd during his last breath.
With a cop's knee on his neck.
On his neck.
He deserves so
much more.
So much
How
more.
many black lives have to be taken before something is done?
We are not a threat.
I am shaking as I type.
This has got to stop.
We are sick of it.
Conviction.
I just want us all to live.
Death will not stop until the powers that be are finally held accountable.
Don't look away from the truth until every one of us are free from white supremacy.
Du policier.
The world stands with you.
Aucune pitié, aucune compassion dans son regard et en son
The criminalizing and killing of black and brown bodies is not new. It's as old as America. It's just getting filmed more.
Do you know what it feels like to be hunted? To have a new hashtag for a dead black person every single day? How does one plan a life if they aren't sure they will have a life to plan?
Trayvon
Darishia
Martin,
Armstrong,
Anderson,
Deborah Dance,
Megan Friday, Jeremiah Hall,
Rochelle
Stephanie
Leisha,
Clark,
Megan
Shalanda
Hall,
Castillo, Jania Walker,
Webster,
Keisha White,
Stefan
Sandra
Breonna Taylor. George Floyd. His name was George Floyd. Say his name.
Say his name.
George Floyd. Say his name.
Say their names.
Once again and always, we fight for justice.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Rest in power, beautiful. You didn't deserve this.
All these beautiful, precious black lives lost in the name of senseless white pride. Tears falling from us. How many mothers have to cry? How many brothers gotta die? How many more times? How many more times?
Hello, and welcome to tonight's SGN Some Good News program. This program was intended to share some good news around the chaos that is COVID-19. But throughout these past 4 weeks, we've seen even more chaos arise. We've seen the death of George Floyd on May 25th. We've seen, as an effect from that, we've seen protests arise for his death, for his unjustful death. We've seen police abuse their power. We've seen the effects of white privilege and white systematic racism. And just this week, we've seen the death of Rayshard Brooks, who was shot after being questioned for sleeping in his car for being drunk. We've also seen the death of Robert Fuller and Malcolm Harsh, both found hung from a tree in California. These are all victims of police brutality and white supremacy. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we can no longer turn our eyes, we can no longer turn our head away from the problem. We can no longer pretend that this is not a problem that doesn't affect us. This is a problem that affects all of us. We cannot claim that all lives matter. All lives do not matter until all lives truly matter.
All these beautiful, precious black lives lost in the name of senseless white pride. Tears falling from us. How many mothers have to cry? How many brothers gotta die? How many more times?
Today is June 19th, also known as Juneteenth, the real Independence Day, or at least it should be. Here is a small clip for those that may not know the history of Juneteenth.
You know, I usually give the history lessons around here, but go ahead, Aloe Black. You know, I'll just sit here.
I am a slave, yes, I'm only a slave. They'll place my body in an unmarked grave. In these Confederate days, it's kinda hard to lift every voice singing while worrying about how low the sweet chariots are swinging. I could swing from a tree, but hey, oh, I hope and pray they don't kill me today. I am still just a slave.
If the Emancipation Proclamation was passed in 1863, why weren't you free until 1865?
Well, it took 2 years for the Civil War to end.
Oh, so you were free when the war ended?
Nah, not for 2 more months because Texas landowners wanted another harvest.
That's not cool.
Well, none of it was cool.
But an army ship arrived on June 19th, 1865 and announced we were free. That's why we celebrate Juneteenth.
I am a slave and the home of the brave, a product of the triangular trade. Please pardon my ways if I'm nervous or the slightest bit skittish. In the presence of the Portuguese, Spanish, Dutch, or British, they kept me in colonial chains. Tell me how to persuade them to chill or to save me if still I'm a slave.
We've all seen the protests all around the country, all around the world. And here are some good news that have come out from the protest in today's civil rights movement. More people are supporting the Black Lives Matter movement. Major corporations in the US have now said that they are actively diversifying their workplace. Congress and other cities are taking down Confederate flags and Confederacy statues. Public and private conversations are happening about race and privilege at home. And finally, Black Panther director Ryan Coogler fined his new cast members for the Black Panther 2 movie. Now, on church-related news, our church opens on June 27th. That is next Saturday. I'm sure we are all happy to be back. I'm sure we are all happy to see each other once again. Now, if you see these people dressed like this, don't worry. That's just Eduardo and his team of diaconos, making sure that we are safe from COVID-19 in our church. Now, this Sunday, June 22nd, is Father's Day. Now, whether we have our fathers present in our lives or we don't, here is a video from Chuito, one of the fathers from our church, showing us some dad hacks that may be useful to us in our daily lives.
You see that little gas pump's icon or symbol? There's an arrow next to it. That actually is telling you where the gas door is. So, next time you gotta put gas in a car you may or may not know. Now you know, left is on the driver's side, right is on the passenger side.
And if you happen to find yourself in a quarantine and you have to do your young daughter's hair, maybe you can just go ahead and do this. We just don't quite do it the same way maybe the moms do it. But we just find ways to do it in a way that comes out very nicely and done. And there you go.
Let's say you want to eat something that's good but messy, and you don't feel like doing dishes afterwards, right? You could use disposable plates, right? But if you don't have them, or let's say you don't like using them, well, you could do this. Get yourself some cling wrap. Get yourself a piece. Look at that. Like it's not even there. Get your pasta. And then go ahead and eat up. Now you're done eating. What a mess, right? No. See? Now you just take this stuff off. Take it off. Clean plate. That should clean up. Okay guys, so you know living in Florida that you're gonna encounter this, especially if you're driving around. Love bugs. This time of year, it's a pain in the butt. What do? Well, you get yourself a sponge like this. It's got like texture on it. It's actually called a sponge. And you go ahead and just get water all over the area that you're about to clean. Then go ahead and spray your bug remover. Get it on there pretty good, especially if you've left these bugs on here way too long. By the way, don't leave the bugs on your car way too long. That's a bad idea. Right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna wait about 30 seconds, leave this on here, and then we'll come back and get it off. Okay, so it's been about 30 seconds or so. So what are you gonna do now? Well, you're gonna take your sponge, the little bug sponge that I mentioned earlier, and you're gonna go ahead and lightly scrub the bugs and the stuff off the car. Be very careful as you're scrubbing because this will scratch your car if you go a little bit nuts on it, all right? So go ahead and lightly scrub. If the bugs have been here way too long, you may have to do this a couple of times. Go ahead and grab yourself a clean, dry rag and wipe it off as best you can. As you can see, most of the stuff's gone. There's not a lot of residue left, just a couple little spots there. Do this and then wash the car right immediately afterwards, because this stuff is pretty nasty and you don't want to leave it on there either. So there you go. Once your child has grown and they start to drive, you're gonna have to adjust and make sure you let them know what the proper way and the proper speed limit is. One more car thing. You might find yourself sometimes walking away from your car and having to either open it or lock it, and then when you do this, you realize that you're too far away and now your key fob is out of range to lock your car. Well, here's a thing you can do. Let's just say I may have tried this once or twice before. You see, you take your key fob and you point it at your head, and then you go and you lock. You can see that the car actually locks. See, the car locks again. All right. When you point this at your head, it'll actually lock or unlock the car, even from the distance where I tried before, and it did not work. Don't know if I recommend pointing a radio transmitter to your head, but now you know if you had to, it works. Now another option, if you don't want to be pointing this key fob at your head, is to use a water bottle if you happen to have one. So water bottle, key fob, and there you go. It works. So water bottle or your head, your choice. You come to the kitchen looking for your favorite beverage. It's warm. So what do? Let's say you want to drink this Malta. You know you want to drink it cold. And yes, Malta India is the best. Sorry. What option do you have to get this cool as quickly as you can? Well, obviously, you take it and you put it in the freezer. But what if you wanted to do it faster? Get yourself a container that, let's say, is slightly bigger or bigger than whatever it is you want to cool down. Take some ice and pour it in said container, right? Try to get it nice and even, right? Get yourself some water. Get it all nice and full of water, right? And lastly, put some salt around the ice. Why? Because this helps with melting, right? So then you have to put that in the freezer. Leave it there for a few minutes. We'll come back and we'll see how cold it got. All right, so it's been about 15 minutes since we put the Malta inside of the bucket with the water and the ice and the salt. So I guess now we're gonna try it out and see how cold it got. Oh yeah.
All these beautiful, precious black lives, lost in the name of senseless white pride. Tears falling from us. How many mothers have to cry? How many brothers gotta die? How many more times? How many more times?
Now here is Brenda with a beautiful song.
Good news for the shamed. There is good news for the one who walked away. There is good news for the doubter, the one religion failed. For the good Lord has come to seek and save. He's our rescuer. He's our rescuer. We are free from sin forevermore. Oh, how sweet the sound. Oh, how grace abounds. We will praise the Lord. the foot of Calvary. But there is redemption for every affliction here at the foot of Calvary. Come and be chainless, come and be fearless, come to the foot of Calvary. But there is redemption for every affliction here at the foot of Calvary. He's our rescuer, He's our rescuer. We are free from sin forevermore. Oh, how sweet the sound, oh, how grace abounds. We will praise the Lord, our rescuer.
Hi young people, I'm Pastor Gary Blanchard, World Youth Director for the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And I know many of you watching right now are going through a lot of fear and sadness and maybe some anger as well, especially when you saw those horrible things happening to George Floyd on May 25th. I want to share with you young people from my heart 3 words of encouragement and challenge to you. The first thing I want to tell you is this: Jesus is coming very soon and we are living at the very end of time. You know, Christ actually said in Matthew 24 that in the last days, because wickedness will increase, the hearts of many will grow cold. And we saw that as the police officer pressed his knee down on George's neck. And we heard him cry out, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe," and even cry out to his mother. We were looking right there at evil. Evil, plain and simple. We saw that. Young people, right now this world is becoming very, very cold. And you saw that firsthand on May 25th. We are truly living at the end of time. You know, Jesus actually went on there and he said, "But those who endure to the end will be saved." It's very interesting. Jesus is saying something here in context. He's saying, don't lose your compassion for one another. Even though you don't see it around you and you see more and more coldness, don't you lose your passion. Endure. Have your passion and your compassion endure until the very end, is what Christ is saying. The second thing I want to say to you young people is that it's okay to be angry, all right? The Bible says be angry in Ephesians. Be angry. In fact, we see that in God. God gets angry at times. He put that emotion in us. The Bible says in Ephesians 4, be angry and sin not. Let not the sun go down on your wrath. Do not give the devil a foothold. What is God trying to say? He's saying, look, be angry, but channel your anger towards something productive that can help others. Young people, I challenge you to get involved in helping, healing, and bringing hope to others in their life. Young people, you don't just have to roll over and take injustice and these kind of things. Instead, you need to rise up with that anger and do something productive to help others and make sure that it stops. Do what you can. The third thing I want to share with you, young people, that I think is very important is we can never forget this. Even though we're not supposed to roll over, we are to stand up and speak out. We need to remember this. Injustice and racism and violence are what happens in this earth, in this fallen earth. We are behind enemy lines. We're not home yet. These things happen. But young people, I have good news for you. We have an incredible message that very soon Jesus is going to come back. He's going to come back and he's going to bring righteous judgment on the earth. I know a lot of people think they got away with a lot. They swept a lot of injustice under the rug. They swept a lot of racism under the rug. They swept a lot of violence under the rug. In other words, they never got caught. But guess what? The day is coming when Jesus, the Prince of Peace, the great judge of all the earth, will come back and he will make all things right. Young people, don't ever forget that. That doesn't mean we have to roll over. We can stand up and be a light today. But remember, these things are a reality on this fallen planet. But guess what? That reality is about to change. Because Jesus is coming home. He's coming back to take us home. He's going to be here very soon. You know, one of my favorite songs is Joy to the World. And we often sing that song during Christmas time. But did you know that Isaac Watts actually wrote that song for the second coming? And do you know where Isaac Watts got the idea? He got it from Psalms 98. You ought to read it sometime. And in the psalm, it basically says, give joy to the Lord for all the wonderful things he's done. It goes on, give him joy, give him glory, give him honor. Let all of nature give him honor. And then at the end it says why? Because the Lord is coming back to judge the earth righteously and with equity. Wow. Young people, in these last days, we have the greatest antidote of all times for the sin and suffering in the world. And that's the message of Jesus and his soon coming. Soon Jesus will come back and he will judge in righteousness. We need to preach it. We need to tell others and give them that hope as we move forward and be his hands and feet in the world. Young people, we have a motto at Global Youth Day. It's be the sermon. Don't just talk the sermon. Be the sermon. Be God's hands, be God's feet, be God's mouthpiece. Young people, on behalf of the General Conference Youth Department, we love all of you. We're praying for you. Don't forget that the Lord loves you as well, and he's with you no matter what. God bless.
All these beautiful, precious black lives, lost in the name of senseless white pride. Tears falling from us. How many mothers have to cry? How many brothers gotta die? How many more times? How many more times?
Hi guys, good evening. So, each one of us has an identity, and that identity is built and shaped by the people that surround us, our family members. But unfortunately, sometimes because our circle is so small and close-knit, we lack experience and outside perspective. So that limits our identity and how it's shaped, and sometimes even the things that we identify with. Now, let's talk about it from a food perspective. A lot of you guys know that I love food. I love cooking. I love cooking for my friends, for my family. I feel very comfortable in that environment. So with that being said, I want to ask you a question. How many of you guys like tacos? I love tacos. They're one of my favorites. Now, I want to ask you, if I would have stayed within my Dominican culture, do you think that I would have been able to experience authentic Mexican tacos? The answer is no. So through authentic tacos, I was able to experience a very tiny bit of the richness of Mexican culture. And when I say tiny, I mean very tiny. And sometimes it's very hard to lean in to what's familiar because it seems the most comfortable, the most safest. And that idea really permeates throughout all humanity. When you think about it, it permeates through food, through experiences, through reading, literature, even fashion sometimes. So if we become rigid in our experiences and our willingness to experiences and limit ourselves, we limit ourselves to understanding other people and understanding the beautifulness and the layering that we all bring to the table as different cultures. Now, as you guys know, there's a lot of civil unrest right now due to the injustices that are happening to our African American brothers and sisters. Now, as Hispanics, I find it sometimes very hard to identify because we're coming from an outside perspective as immigrants. Now, no matter your political view or where you stand, us as Hispanics have an identity of an African ancestry that has built the foundation of many of us in our culture, from the foods that we eat to the instruments that we hear in our music. Finding links to each other is what makes us human. So I want to challenge you tonight, before you listen to the devotional, to through these times remain open-minded to the pain that sometimes we can't relate to the pain that a lot of us do relate to. And I want you to remember that we don't have to do a grandiose gesture to bring about change, to stand for injustices. Although those things are great, if you would like to or can donate, you can. If you would like and feel the most comfortable protesting, let your voice be heard. But understanding that true change comes one from within and becoming uncomfortable and coming to a place of learning and having conversations with your close community. And for me, that looks a lot like having a conversation with my mom and my brother. Again, I want to challenge you as your friend, as your sister, as your churchgoer, to lean into being uncomfortable for a moment and discussing the topics that need to be had and trying your hardest to really see the predicament of the people that are currently crying out.
All these beautiful, precious black lives, lost in the name of senseless white pride. Tears falling from us. How many mothers have to cry? How many brothers gotta die? How many more times? How many more times?
Now here is Giselle with a beautiful worship song. Enjoy.
Mi corazón está dolido, pero creo en ti. Mi corazón está sufrido, pero yo creo en ti. Toma mi cántaro y quebrántame, repárame con tu poder. Toma redoma de tu aceite, derrama sobre mí tu santa unción. Toma redoma de tu aceite, derrama sobre mí tu santa unción. Repara mi vida, oh Señor, es lo que anhelo con tu Santo Espíritu. Es lo que tanto ha anhelado mi alma, como el desierto y sequedad, anhelo yo. Repara mi vida, oh Señor, es lo que anhelo con tu Santo Espíritu.
Thank you, Giselle, for that beautiful worship song. Now, here is Eden Henry with our special message for tonight.